Welcome to the STEM Equity web-based package. I am Dr. Stephanie Garcia, an Education Associate at IDRA. Welcome to Chapter 3, an equity discussion where we identify and disrupt STEM barriers and inequities. In this chapter, we will identify barriers and inequities situated within STEM education as they pertain to policy, pedagogical practices, curriculum, and family engagement. Let's begin with a closer look into national, state, and local policy implications that hinder or enhance STEM equity in K-12 education. I have to start with inequitable funding because it has a major impact on strengthening STEM education and increasing opportunities for all students to succeed in STEM. As you can see in this graph, per pupil spending levels in the U.S. South lag behind the national average. This has a negative and direct impact on all STEM programs and initiatives. All students deserve to go to excellent, well-funded schools, so we need to continue to advocate for equitable school funding. Educational policies should be centered on community wealth, especially on supporting students of color, students from families with limited incomes, and students who require additional programs, supports, and services in their schools. We know that students who live in communities that are able to raise a lot of money through property taxes often have more resources for school buildings, high-quality teachers, counselors, and learning materials. Whereas their fellow students who live in poorer districts because of a history of racial segregation, intentional harmful housing, and economic policies do not have access to these same important resources. I want to stress the importance of these resources to ensure equitable access and opportunities in K-12 STEM education. Some examples of these resources include high-quality teachers that have experience and training in STEM areas, as well as counselors to help support students' persistence in and through the pipeline, especially our first-generation student populations. Rigorous STEM learning materials, equipment, and classrooms are resources that can all help teach fundamental concepts and equip students for STEM innovation. No matter what your connection is to STEM education, it is key to research the following topics and find opportunities to serve as an activist or agitator among your networks in efforts to truly dismantle oppressive conditions found within STEM education. It is a collective effort, so we need you. First, I'd like to suggest that we stop tracking students out of college preparatory and AP courses. Research shows that underrepresented students are overwhelmingly placed in lower tracks and tracked out of AP classes and college preparatory classes. This is a huge disservice to our students, and it creates barriers and places gatekeepers in the way of student progress. I'd also like to suggest that we hire, support, and retain Black, Brown, and Indigenous teachers, paraprofessionals, school counselors, and other personnel. Did you know that in the 2019-20 school year, teachers were 90% monolingual, 84% white, and 75% women? Racial diversity in the educator workforce is crucial, especially in schools with diverse populations. Reduce class sizes so that Black, Brown, and Indigenous children can thrive, especially in STEM programs and labs where more academic support and diverse student voices are needed. Remove all punitive or disciplinary practices that oppress Black, Brown, and Indigenous children. All classrooms and schools should be safe, welcoming, and brave spaces where all students can thrive. Lastly, school boards should reflect or exceed the diversity of the student population and community. Remember, your vote, your voice. Leaders you elect impact decisions concerning STEM programs, allocations, course selections, and resources. Equity-oriented state policies are another way to ensure that students are supported in STEM. Advancing equitable policies at the state level rather than the federal level should be a priority for communities in the IDRA region, since most education policy tends to be designed, implemented, and evaluated by state legislators. It's important to note, since demographic disparities do vary from state to state, it is key that each state's governing body addresses the unique disparities that are endemic to that state. Research and make recommendations for funding allocations and priorities. Share public testimonies and statements, and be sure to center student and family voice in these settings. All right, zooming in on the campus level, it's important to identify pedagogical practices that benefit all students in STEM classrooms. In STEM classes and industries alike, women and people of color are often excluded from positions of power, are not represented, and sometimes their ways of knowing and meaning making are marginalized. And knowledge production is sometimes presented as neutral and detached from power relations and structures, and these structures are often normalized. It's important to cultivate relationships and community by consistently reflecting on and honoring students' full humanity. Build a school culture that engages in healing and advocacy. STEM classrooms are not neutral spaces. How one creates classroom structures, norms, assessments, etc., will either reinforce dominant education structures or fight against it. There really is no neutral. This requires then a commitment to learning from students, families, and educators who disrupt these forms of oppression. Again, all of these are examples of practices that are essential for nurturing STEM identities at the campus level. Many promising practices for transformation suggested by STEM scholars can be summarized into the following 3 points. Encourage culturally sustaining and recognizing the context in which students are learning is essential in STEM classrooms. Empowering pedagogies are a best practice because they really help the STEM classroom to be a place where students can ask questions, develop expertise, and innovate. Create classrooms and learning experiences that center the beauty, joy, resiliency, and variety of Black and Brown and Indigenous experiences and contributions to the STEM fields. These are often left out of the traditional STEM curriculum. Did you know that abolitionist teaching tries to restore humanity for kids in schools, and teachers are skillful in their context and in the Latinx, Native American, and African American cultures? We have a ton of resources that you can explore, and all of this is linked below within this web-based package. Shown here are some questions to help guide your personal reflection on your STEM teaching and learning experiences. Remember, teaching for an anti-racist future starts with us, the educators. So go ahead and pause the video and review these questions and reflect on the prompts provided by Dr. Felicia Moore-Minsa. An anti-racist educator is someone who actively works to dismantle the structures and systems that create barriers and perpetuate race-based inequities for people of color. Link arms with like-minded STEM educators to truly broaden impact and create change in your school communities. STEM curriculum. This is going to be addressed more in Chapter 4. However, I wanted to highlight a few important thoughts to consider as we are discussing STEM equity barriers and inequities. We need to encourage innovation. Much work can be done to improve the STEM curriculum in ways that encourage STEM interest and build capacities for future STEM careers. Innovation is one approach to consider as it renders opportunities to be more inclusive, interdisciplinary, and inquiry-based. This published data indicates that children from the southeastern United States are notably unlikely to become innovators and inventors. Even after controlling income, innovation rates across much of the South are low. Innovation rates are also much lower for African Americans and Latinos. So that was disrupting, right? I'd like to take a minute to just challenge this deficit discourse, however, and say that all students are innovators. Notice how I said are instead of can be innovators. Naturally, all children are inquisitive, curious, and problem solvers. And as adults, we need to do the work of an ally and help to increase access and opportunities for all students because they are the next George Washington Carver, Katherine Johnson, and Helen Rodriguez-Diaz. Here are a few more reflection questions to consider. So go ahead if you'd like to pause and consider how we use the curriculum, how we develop it, and what kind of instructional practices that are often used in our classrooms. Family engagement in STEM. Well, there's a lot to say about this, and there's a lot of efforts happening nationwide to do better in this area. Children have personal experiences with STEM because it's all around them. And families can help students make connections to STEM with their culture, interests, language, home knowledge, and community concerns. Educators also can reinforce these connections in ways that expand opportunities for students in STEM and build their STEM identities. I'd like to introduce IDRA's 6 principles of family leadership, which supports our Education Cafe model for building strong parent-educator partnerships to improve schools and raise students' academic achievement. For example, I'm just going to look at a couple, okay? The first principle states, families can be their children's strongest advocates. So what does that look like in STEM spaces? Families and role models serve as a support system that can help recognize students' curiosity towards STEM and help them persist through STEM coursework. The 6th principle states, families, schools, and communities, when drawn together, become a strong, sustainable voice to protect the rights of all children. This proves to be true when families encourage, nurture, and enhance children's STEM identity. This also means ensuring children have access to high-quality STEM learning experiences and coursework. According to the STEM Next Opportunity Fund, family engagement can be a game changer for expanding and diversifying the world of STEM and expanding the options for all youth. They offer 6 promising practices to support families as they encourage their children in STEM. First, put parents at the center. Listen and learn from parents. Create space for listening sessions, pláticas, dialogue, and other opportunities to actively listen and learn from parents and families. Make equity and inclusion primary considerations in family engagement. Third, support a STEM ecosystem that begins and ends with the needs of families. It would be helpful for you to visit stemecosystems.org to locate your nearest designated STEM ecosystem and get connected. This is basically your local STEM neighborhood, a cross-sector network of partners who want to see your child succeed in STEM too. Next, commit resources to support staff, particularly those working in under-resourced communities. Next, evaluate impact on youth and parents to advance STEM for all. STEM equity advocate Melanie Labat-Joseph recently reported how vital it is to have a relentless pursuit of clearly defined measurable outcomes to measure your STEM impact and to develop various learning communities around these issues to bring actionable change. Lastly, scale programs that have successful track records in supporting innovative approaches, particularly those with families who have been underrepresented in STEM. Thanks for watching Chapter 3. See our next video chapter for more recommendations on STEM curriculum, nurturing STEM identities, and strengthening the STEM pipeline.